So, some of you might be wondering why the first video on a channel called Climate Blitzkrieg is about uh, coronavirus, face masks, and like reversing the ventilation to make it um, more COVID safe. That's because it's the current threat. The primary focus of this channel is going to be climate change, treating climate change like it's a war because it's negatively affecting us. It hurts our cities, hurts food production, and squirrels aside, it's going to be hard for nature, and I like being out in nature. Um, it's fantastic. So I wanted to go over what this channel is primarily going to be about, how it's going to work. So probably my first video is going to be on how to take certain industries, specifically the beef industry and greenhouse gas producing industries, and actually turn them into uh, aspects of addressing climate change. That is something that would be a huge boon in this war, in protecting ourselves, and it will also get rid of a lot of the complaints about being environmentally friendly. A large part of that is because groups started off saying you have to stop this entirely, which is the wrong approach. Go up to someone, tell them they have to completely change how they do something out of the blue, present science to them. It doesn't matter, it's going to feel like an attack. And those industries responded accordingly, not necessarily the smartest approach, but they responded emotionally, which is how most people do respond. But there are some very key factors. The beef industry can actually be used. It sounded like an alarm somewhere. The beef industry can actually be used to address some aspects of climate change and help the environment recover while lowering their costs and getting a ton of good PR and helping local economies. I'm going to go over that in my first real climate change video. And I'm also going to address how if you assume that we address climate change issues and we start reducing the greenhouse gas emissions in like 150, 200 years, we're going to have a lot of issues that are largely going to be the exact opposite. And I would actually argue that there is a reason to keep the technology around, and in the meantime replace some of the existing technology that is carbon positive and turn it into something that's carbon neutral in a way that is actually going to be easier and safer for those industries. Safety is a big thing in those industries, largely because, like, when you're on an oil rig out in the middle of the ocean and you have people working there, bad things can happen. Deepwater Horizon, all the various oil spills, moving shipping containers, there's actually a lot of really positive things going on right now. And if the environmentalists, when they first started realizing the dangers that we're at right now, went to these industries and say, hey, we understand that you're important to the economy at this moment, and but we see a huge issue coming down. We want to work with you to help fix this. We don't have solutions other than completely stopping your production, and that's obviously something that is going to be hard to convince you of. But we think that we can advance and improve how you do stuff, and if we put research into it and we fund it, that you can be better for the environment while still making your profits. That kind of approach could have developed the technology that we're just getting now decades ago. Specifically because it actually will lower their costs in the long run. It'll save them money, and they will have fewer issues actually with international competition for a lot of the greenhouse gas emitting products. So I'm really excited about that. The culmination of this series is going to be on a geo-engineering approach that I'm working on that is unique and that is targeted and very limited and very controlled. There's no pollution. There is there is much less of an issue with with negative secondary effects. It's limited duration. It would only be for a few hours. It's specifically targeting not to lower the temperatures as a whole, but to counteract certain effects climate change is having, such as melting ice caps, or when the land dries out, a lot of plants have a lot of harder time, and temperature. It does address temperature for short periods of time, and that is very important because when you get things like heat waves, uh, greenhouse gas production goes up as energy goes up, people's health goes down, people become miserable, people become hostile. One of the big things with increased temperatures, people are going to get more angry. We know this. There is lots of research for this. If you, in fact, there's been several studies, kind of joke studies that show that like when people eat ice cream, they get angry. And it's because when people get hot, they seek cooling behaviors, and then they go and there's an increased sale in ice cream. You sell more ice cream in summer than winter. That makes sense. So they can say, oh, when when people eat ice cream, they get angry. And so that's the kind of thing that people can use to kind of distort the facts about things and not really identify the real issues. Like, we are going to find out that stuff we are doing has been done wrong for a long, long time. Don't touch your nose. COVID. Don't touch your face. I'm a bad person. Do not be like me. Learn from my mistakes. But the point is that my geoengineering approach is unique. I think it has a lot of other advantages as well, and I am working to develop this. Um, but I want to start having conversations about climate change to get used to that, because it's not fair to a promising idea for someone who really has nothing to their name to approach a topic and say, I have a solution. It's going to turn out the same way that early environmentalism kind of shot itself in the foot, rather than working with these companies and saying, hey, there's this issue coming up, but like we think that if we can develop in certain directions, like being able to take carbon dioxide out of the air to turn it into fuel locally, things like that, that it would have been much more positive. And I want to try and have that kind of positive approach to begin with. And because frankly, when people work together, they get more stuff done. We have not been working together, and we have not accomplished nearly what we've needed to do. And it's also really hurt certain industries. That's why they're at constant risk of terrorist attack in the United States. Why the Republicans have issued a lot of kind of odd, um, not necessarily odd, but very, they've escalated the prioritization of certain industries because they are being targeted because of the damage they are doing. That kind of thing I don't want happening to a project that may actually help. And my geoengineering project hopefully is going to be able to um, coordinate with other projects out there to increase their efficiency and lower their cost while increasing safety. The basic premise for that is that if you do one thing too much, like you only drink water, you can get overhydrated and actually die. There's a famous case in the U.S. where they're doing a contest where they drank lots of water and then they were not going to the bathroom. Um, and the whole idea is that you would win a Wii. So the contest was hold your Wii for a Wii, and a person died because they only drank water. Doing one thing too much is bad. Now, if they had electrolytes in that water, the person probably would have been fine, unless there's another condition or something else going on that I am unaware of. And so that's the kind of approach I want to take. It's an approach that can be self-limiting, that once you start getting the research, you might initially go like, this seems like the better approach. I think for you, my camera's reversed for me, so approach A for you might think is going to be the majority of what you do. And approach B is down here, it's a little extra thing. And then as you find out, you might start switching that, because you might find out that there's other negative impacts or increased costs or safety issues, or may not work in some regions. There may be extra issues in certain locations, whereas the other idea, yeah, may be less efficient, but the positive outcomes outweigh the negative more than the other way around. So that's the kind of approach I want to take. Now, when I said at the beginning that I wanted to do this as kind of a militaristic approach, I am going to have several comedy sketches that I am thinking of with the idea. Don't touch your face. Um, with the idea of fudge, um, of kind of showing on a map where we're losing and where we're winning. We have some victories. The ozone layer they think has closed enough that it's reduced a degree of global warmth, which is both terrifying and fantastic. So we know we can do it. That was fixed largely just because the international community said, hey, this category of chemicals that is just literally destroying hundreds of thousands of particles of ozone for one particle of chemical was not acceptable. So we're going to do. So I'm going to approach things from a strategic and tactical perspective, from a safety perspective, from an investment perspective. Pretty much just take all the problems and shove them into one channel and try and approach them and get problems to solve other problems. I think we can do it. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that is really, really positive that a lot of people don't realize. Got myself that time. Thank you, camera. Um, anyway, there's a lot of positive things going on. I plan on contributing today. I plan on having people who don't believe that climate change is real to. I'm not going to sit there and argue with them if they don't want to hear it. It's the same approach as going to oil companies and saying, you have to stop everything you're doing right now or we're all going to die. It doesn't accomplish anything. Bug was trying to fly up my nose. So that is what this channel is going to be about. There's going to be a few other things mixed in, um, occasional comments on politics probably, but all that's kind of up in the air. I want to get a few videos out before I analyze and see what's going on, and I hope you will join me with that journey. Like and subscribe. I do not have a Twitter yet. I will get a Twitter up and going, but I also want to build a community. So I'm going to eventually host a website with the idea of people being able to contribute, people being able to have the discussions, and people who do not believe the other side at all. I want to try and have a separate area. Like, hey, if you think that this isn't real, this is where you can go to talk about it. This is where this is appropriate. Here's the guidelines to treat people respectfully because we're all people. We're all on the same planet, and there are any number of ways beyond our Earth that can kill us at any second. There is actually a black hole, I think, and if it has a gamma ray burst, we would be right in the way, and we would just die. And there's nothing we can do about it. Yet, ironically, my geoengineering project can accelerate the ability, theoretically, to address this to 200 years. But that's for later. If you're interested, if you want to hear more, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment asking for issues that you want to see addressed. I won't get them all at first, but I will try and see how I can address them, and I will try and keep the comments sorted for later. Have a good day, and enjoy your life. Be healthy, be safe, be respectful.